Stugotz here. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love a good gummy. Whether I'm on the golf course or winding down after a long day of carrying the show on my back, all I need is one good gummy to help me totally relax. And now, thanks to my good friends at CBDMD, getting Delta 9 THC gummies shipped directly to your door is not only possible, it's easy and affordable. How about that? Every CBDMD Delta 9 gummy is packed with 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, and let me tell you, buddy, they work. CBDMD also has Delta 9 microdose capsules that feature 1 milligram of THC, so it's easy to enjoy them whenever, wherever. And listen, I know it's easy to get confused with all the different Deltas out there, but Delta 9 THC is the same good old-fashioned THC we've all known and loved for years. To learn more about Delta 9 and everything else CBDMD has to offer, just head to cbdmd.com/Dan. Once again, that's cbdmd.com/Dan for information, education, and the best damn gummies you've ever had. Must be 21 years or older to purchase Delta 9.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Stugotz.
Yes.
We got somebody here.
Who?
We got somebody wiggling on the hook. A big fish. We got a big fish wiggling on the hook. We're reeling him in. Are you ready?
Talk to me.
It is the motherfucking Hall of Famer.
Oh, my God.
Chris Mad Dog Russo. But now everybody knows he's a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Famer.
You guys are too nice. You guys are too nice. How you doing? How are my two pals down there in Miami? Things good?
Well,
what's happening?
You got a lot of pals down here in Miami, but we're confused how the Hall of Famer doesn't know how to work the Zoom.
Yeah, I don't. Matter of fact, I was hoping one of my children were here, and my wife's out. And Eddie Erickson, my producer, is coming up later, so I am completely lost. Plus, I saw Jackson Brown last night at the Beacon Theater, and I had some goodies in the course of the day, so I'm a little out of it as well. So as a result of that, on the phone is the best way to get me on this Thursday.
All right, I want to hear about the goodies.
Hungover Doggy on a Thursday,
I want to hear all the details about the goodies. Little Stugotz and everybody. Are you calling us from a landline?
No, I was going to do that too, Danny, but the problem with the landline in my house, it's actually worse than a cell phone. So what I did was I found a spot in my driveway that I know is pretty good, so I figured that I won't drop out or crap out in this situation. So we should be good to go. Yes, goodies. I would say song 5, Fountain of Sorrow, if you are a Jackson Brown fan. Your little talk show host pal here popped in a gummy. So there you have it.
Song 5, Doggy. Wow. That's late in the proceeds, Doggy. I mean,
how many? What was the milligram count? How strong can Doggy do it?
I was out of it by take it easy. I can promise you that at 11:30 at night. But I figured at 62. I figured at 62 years of age, if anybody deserved a gummy when I wasn't driving, it was yours truly. So here I am.
Yeah, absolutely. You're a Hall of Famer, Doggy.
He is a Hall of Famer. And forgive me for bringing this up at the time, Doggy. You're a big shot, and I hope it hasn't gone to your head. But I take a bit of disrespect from, and more than a bit, from the fact that we couldn't get a landline or a Zoom, just something with spotty cell reception in your driveway. I feel like the Hall of Famer has now outgrown us and that the whole thing is hurtful to me.
Not a chance. You have to know me, Danny, that I am awful with technological components. I stink. I can't do anything. So I could have called you in a landline, but I did think this would be better. And as I said, I don't even have a computer. Do you guys know that? I don't own a computer. So you are talking to...
That's not possible.
If I want to read... I swear to God, if I want to read something on an internet, a story, somebody's got to punch it up for me. So that's how inept I am.
No, come on.
So, as a result, I would not take offense.
Okay, I have not taken offense, but now I don't believe you. Can't you're
He doesn't have one.
in
Dan.
the modern age. You're functioning without a computer. How about you have
I swear to
smartphone?
God,
Smartphone.
I swear I don't have a phone, and I don't know anything about these smartphones either. I mean, I can text. I'm a good texter. Stugotz can tell you that.
Yes.
I'm a good texter. And I get the information when I got to get the information. But I have not here's another one for you. I have not watched the ball game yet this year on Apple, Peacock, or Amazon. Baseball, Yankees on Amazon, the Sunday Morning Peacock, or the Apple TV on Friday, because I'm afraid if I go to one of those streaming services, I'll screw the whole damn thing up and get completely frustrated and ruin my night. So I haven't even done that. That's what you need to know about your
You love baseball.
So he chooses not to watch the game.
You're denying yourself Yankee games. The phone that you have, is it an old phone? Does it not have computer capabilities, or do you have an iPhone?
No, it's an old iPhone. I probably bought it 4 years ago. It's cracked all over the place. My wife has said, you got to get a new iPhone, so I'm off to do that. Matter of fact, I had an old Lexus from 2008 that I bought before I left to go to Sirius, and I just traded it in the other day because I'm too lazy and I didn't think I needed a new car. That's 14 years ago, for crying out loud. I am living in the 1950s. You guys, I did 3 hours yesterday on Tony Dow. You guys know.
That's why you're a Hall of Famer, dog.
3 hours? 3 hours?
No, I'm kidding. But I did mention it. Yes, I mentioned it.
I want to talk about the emotions for you. You're somebody who helped create the industry of sports radio. I don't know how much validation you get from others telling you you're a Hall of Famer. Were you emotional about career achievement here?
Absolutely. I mean, I understand. You don't really get to, but yes, listen, I probably could have been in maybe a little while ago. I've been down this path before where, I sort of I didn't get those proper votes, but they told me about 10, 12 days ago at night, so I kept it quiet, but I've been very into this week, and I've been kidding all the writers who can't stand me. I've been kidding it. I'm a Hall of Famer. What do you got to say about that? That kind of stuff. But this week, I have been really taken aback. All the fans who have called up the radio show Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday basically wanting to reminisce about the radio career, whether it's Mike and the Mad Dog fans, whether it's the Sirius fan who just jumped on in the last 10 years, even the Orlando fan. When I worked at WKIS, I've gotten some of those. Plus, I've gotten a million texts. You guys, of course, here, everybody from Tirico to Costas to Freddie Couples to Jay Wright to Mark Jackson to you name it. I mean, Manford, just a million people have reached out. So, it means as much to them as it did to me. So, yes, emotional. Probably didn't get as emotional about it when they called me 2 weeks ago. But this week, no doubt about it. Matter of fact, at 5 o'clock on Monday, I read a text message from my old college roommate who remembers me from Orlando, even Jacksonville, and I barely could get through it on the air. So people are, Mark Steinberg reached out to me. That's Tiger's agent. You'd be amazed the amount of people who have who have gotten into this. So yes, Danny, yes, Stugotz, it has been an emotional moment. Throw in the fact that Sirius is going to put billboards up in L.A., Miami, and Nashville, which they certainly don't have to do. That's nice of them. So I've had a hell of a week. Bottom line is I've had a hell of a week.
Jessica, why are you laughing?
It's the best.
Because he put an R in Stugotz?
That's what he does.
Danny and Stugotz.
It's a bad, listen, if Doggy mispronounces your name.
I put it on.
Yeah,
hey,
but
I screw up the name.
Yeah.
You know I screw up names. You should don't take offense to that.
Doggy, I don't. I screw up names too. I learn from the best. Are you kidding me?
How would he know what your name is? He doesn't have a computer. He doesn't know how to Google anything. He doesn't know where this podcast is going.
That's all true. That is all true. I am a creature. I swear to God, I am a creature of the 1960s. Who would do hour upon hour upon hour on Crosby, Stills, and Nash and the Mamas and the Papas? You're talking to him. Christopher Russo, right here. You're talking to him.
Doggy, because, listen, most people I would throw this question to on the spot, and I'd be worried about their response. But you're a Hall of Famer, and I know you've done this before. top 5, according to Christopher Mad Dog Russo, the Hall of Famer, top 5 Jackson Browne songs. Go.
Well, wait a minute. You got to let him do it backwards order. So he
knows how to do it, Danny. He's a Hall of Famer.
You think he needs a second of filibuster if you're asking. Have you
Dan,
thought?
he has thought about this list his entire life.
Number 5. Okay. I'm sorry for underestimating the Hall of Famer.
5. Yeah, I'll give you 5. Before the Deluge from Lake for the Sky, which you played last night, that's number 1.
No, but that's this is why he needed a second.
By 1, he needs 5.
I need number 5. I need it in reverse order so that we can get the.
I'm just gonna name them, and you guys will. For a dancer, Late for the Sky. And by the way, if I was on a desert island and I had one album to listen to the rest of my life, I would take a gummy and I would listen to Late for the Sky. That's Jackson's second or third album, 8 songs, phenomenal. Those 2 songs are on it. I'll give Jackson. There you go. Yep. I'll give Jackson credit. He wrote the song with Glenn Frey. He started it. Frey finished it. But I don't know how in the world you can't say Take It Easy is a top 3 Jackson Browne song. So I will put that song in there. Take It Easy. That's 3. I love it. I'll give you 2. Say Yeah is a song that talks about him meeting his girl from a long time ago. That's an old song. I love that. That's 4. And how about I'm Alive, the song that he sort of resurrected himself with, after Daryl Hannah blew him off and he got nailed, everybody got on him. I'll say that. Those 5.
That's a Hall of Famer right there. I noticed you left out Francesa in terms of people who reached out. Did Mike reach out?
Yes, he did.
All right.
He did. I spoke to Mike, so yes, Mike reached out. No, I shouldn't have left him out. He did. I'm trying to think. A lot of people, Mike Breen, you'd be amazed the amount of people who got into this. So, listen, I'll be into it. I bought 3 tables already, for crying out loud, for the induction thing on November 1st. That's 10 people per table. So I'll be there in flocks. Susan Waldman I'm into. She got in too. Smullian was my first owner at Emmis, who owned Emmis Broadcasting at FAN, gave everybody a Christmas bonus check. Never seen that done before in history. He's going to get into this class too. So a good moment, a good week for yours truly. A good week.
I want to get into the top 5 Mad Dog phrases that he loves to use because he just threw out For Crying Out Loud. But before I do that, I want to get into the mechanics of doing First Take. What percentage is totally authentic when you are making these top 5 lists, and what percentage is meant to agitate the public because you're going purposely old on stuff because you want to bother people?
That's an excellent job. I'll say 75% real, 25%. Let me see if I get a rise out of somebody. I'll give you the 25%. When we did the top 5 sports cities during the NBA final, I left Boston out. Now, listen, I didn't even put them 5. I didn't put them 4. I had Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, New York, and Philly, and I left Boston out. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I knew that would get a rise out of the city of Boston. I know Stephen A. would jump up and down and go crazy, and I can give you a normal list on a day-in, day-out basis, but I got to fill 8-9 minutes with that dopey segment. So if I add a little personal nonsense to it, we can have some fun with it. So I would say 75 real, 10% and 25% is a game.
What is the one from the 25% bin that you've been proudest of and remember the most because you're like, I'm really going to screw them up with this one? Is it that or is it another one?
Yeah, it's a good one. Bart Starr and Ron Kramer as far as quarterbacks and tight ends. We did one of those because I did not put Gronkowski Brady 1, and I put Starr.
Such a great move.
Look him up, guys. Yeah. Kramer was an all-timer for the early '60 Packers, but nobody knew who he was. I think that's the one I took the most glee in to foul everybody up. Those 2. That one. That was a good combination.
You picked Cleveland as one of the best sports cities in the nation. Cleveland.
Yeah, I did. I put Cleveland 1 because I feel sorry for the poor town, and I've been there a million times. And I love Cleveland. I've been there all-star game. I've been there. The poor Indians lost. The Browns have been awful. It's a gritty city. They don't pretend that there's somebody that they're not. So I put Cleveland right up there in the mix. I figured that'd be something different. I put Cleveland, Detroit, just to bother people. you know, what the hell? I mean, I'm in here to bother people, so I figured I'd put Cleveland and Detroit. I did give you New York and Philly, and the fifth one was, let's see, what I just
Chicago,
said.
I think.
Chicago, correct. But I did leave Boston out. I left San Francisco out on purpose. So think about it, NBA Finals, and I left the two cities who were involved in the final round out of the top five.
When you put Notre Dame as the most storied college football program, that you weren't trolling. That was true, right?
That was true. That's a good one. I put Notre Dame 1. I put Michigan 2. Michigan bothered people. Alabama 3. Oklahoma was 5. And I think 4 was, I forget who, USC. USC was 4. Here's what I would say about Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the only program in the country that can play a schedule, have a pretty decent schedule because they got 1 million rivalries, and not be in a conference, have an NBC network do all their home games, have all the road games on TV, and still be a Final Four team every year. Now, and they did Rudy, Newt Lockley, and, win one for the Gipper. I know Alabama, I get that, but Notre Dame, Alabama does not have the Subway alumni that Notre Dame has. Notre Dame moves the needle whether you went to Notre Dame or not, and people in Maine don't care about Alabama football. People in Maine might care about Notre Dame football. So that's why I put Notre Dame 1.
And we have Touchdown Jesus.
That was a Touchdown Jesus, and I hate Notre Dame. I'm the only guy in America whose daughter goes to Notre Dame, and her freshman year, I went to a Notre Dame Virginia Tech game, and I took the 17.5, and I bet Tech sitting in midfield.
Little gummy.
And by the way, they covered that night, and Notre Dame had a 90-yard drive to win the game, so I won both ways. But think about it. I go to a Notre Dame game, Danny baby, and I bet Tech with the points, and I covered. So that tells you I can care less about Notre Dame, but they are the top school in the history of college football.
I had no idea you were a Domer dad. I like you even more now, Doggy.
Yeah, listen, I have some fun with these. Like everybody else, I'll throw a couple of bucks on some scenarios where I see that's interesting. I'll give you another one I took that you guys would like. After game 1 of the Heat series with the Celtics, I bet Boston to win a series. After game 1, plus 175. Now, that, my friends, is a good bet. That's a good bet.
Why? Because it paid. I mean, because you won.
Well, that's exactly right. It's best thing if it doesn't. I was able to cash the ticket. 100% right. 100%.
Why do you hate Notre Dame?
I hate Notre Dame because Notre Dame thinks we're Notre Dame and you're not. And my daughter loves it. My wife's into it. Irish family. My mother-in-law, can't wait to go to these games. I get a little burnt out by the Notre Dame feel. If you go to a Notre Dame weekend, it is incredible the amount of fans who go listen to the fight songs in the chapel, go down to the grotto and light the candles, hang out and watch them march into the stadium. Oh, enough already. Play the game. Jeez. It's crazy. But I've done it, I do it, once, twice a year, even in a pandemic, and it drives you nuts. So the fact that Notre Dame thinks that we're better than you and we're the Irish, and, that attitude kind of bothers me some. So that is why I'm not as in love with Notre Dame as everybody else does. And plus the fact I've had a lot of my buddies who are into Notre Dame, and they drive me crazy. So I go anti there, going against the Irish.
What is the most that Doggy will bet on a game?
3,500.
Wow.
What is the biggest argument, if any, that you've had with Stephen A. because of something that happened on the show?
Something that is real, or something that we're really pissed off at each other?
Something that is real off air where you're like, he thinks you shouldn't have done something, because there's all tensions. Maybe you haven't worked together enough and you're both understanding what you're doing, so there wouldn't be any of that. I'm going to ask you about Francesa too, because I'm guessing that's a different answer with as many years as you work together.
Well, I'll combine it, Dan. The Mike, when we had the arguments with Mike, there was an edge to the argument that I think at times could get uncomfortable for the sports fan listening. Because I do think that when a guy or somebody listens to your radio show, they don't want to necessarily feel uncomfortable. They don't mind yelling and screaming, but I think the average fan doesn't want to sit there and cringe when he's on the Long Island Expressway, listen to me and Mike fight about, whether Mickey Mantle is better than Joe DiMaggio, and then it gets nasty. The famous one with me and Mike is we were arguing about the bathroom facilities, which one is more appropriate, Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park. Now, we must have hated each other then that was sitting there fighting about the bathroom facilities. So there was at times, 19 years, 5 hours a day, there was at times an edginess to Mike and Chris that I think was probably unhealthy. With Stephen A. and I, although we might argue, there has not been, at least to date, and I haven't done this for 19 years with him, so you got to keep that in mind too, but there is not an edginess to it that at times with me and Mike kind of maybe hampered us. Stephen A., we fight, we yell, we scream, but he's been so good to me that there has not been that edge where you say, geez, really, guys, take it easy, tone it down. Haven't had that moment yet, so I think that is the difference. Plus, it's TV. You got to be a little careful because you don't want to emote. I mean, me and Mike did 3 months of shows where we didn't talk to each other. Literally did not say one word to each other during the commercials, during the interview. We did basically a show around each other, and we did that for 3 months back in 1999. Think about that for a minute. That's hard to do, 5 hours a day. Steve and I have never gotten to that point, and I don't think we will. It's a little different. I mean, I got to get into the NBA a lot, so maybe I wouldn't do that necessarily. Maybe the topics can bother me because they are, it's a lot of NBA, a lot of NFL, very few, not a lot of baseball. But overall, the edginess and the nastiness that seep in has not occurred, and I think that's why people like it. I think people like this first take thing. You can challenge Stephen A., and he's not going to get mad at you. He's not going to get defensive. That's number one, and I can do that. And number two, I can be goofy, and goofiness always sells. So I think those two elements are probably the reasons why people have taken it. Plus, I'm the first guy in a while there that can go on there and yell at him. So I think those two things, the goofiness and the fact that I can yell at him and nobody's going to take offense to it, is the reason why people seem to like First Take.
Doggy, as someone who listened to so many hours of your program with Mike, I can tell you as a fan, we loved when you guys fought, and we loved that you discussed sports the way we discussed it in our living rooms with our parents or my brother or my friends or you guys. That's what made it great. That's what made it special. But what a great topic. I mean, you took sports radio to places it's never been before. Which bathroom is nastier? I mean, that is, Doggy, who won that fight?
I think Mike probably did. That fight was occurring when we were trying to decide whether the Yankees should build a new stadium.
Right.
And I said, the Yankees don't need a new stadium. The stadium they got is great. And Mike got defense, and he said the bathrooms at Fenway Park, you can't get to a bathroom. And I went on and on about how there's no problem with Fenway Park. You can find a bathroom. So that literally, if you watch the 30 for 30, that is in there. I mean, I went on for a half hour. So Mike and I are yelling at each other with nastiness about the bathroom facilities and two ballparks, Ancient Park, the American League East. Now, you're right. Some folks would like that, and they like that little edge. But I do think at times it made me and Mike a little uncomfortable. So that is where I would say that, it got a little too on the, a little too rough around the edges. That didn't happen all the time. But, we worked together for 19 years. I remember something else, too. I'm 62 now, so the Stephen A. thing is gravy. When I started with Mike, I was 29. And when you're 29 starting with Mike, you want to show you and you want to puff up your muscles and you want to, show everybody what you know and you want to be the star and you want to basically beat your competitor, in this case, my partner. Stephen A., I don't feel that way with Stephen A. I'll do what they want to do to make it fun. I didn't feel that way 35 years ago. So as a result, it's a little unfair to compare them because I'm at a different level of my life now than I was, back in 1988, 1989.
And you're more confident and you're a Hall of Famer and you've earned what it is you've gotten. But when you say you guys didn't talk for 3 months and we're doing a show for 5 hours a day, what was happening there?
We had a big fight because we did not go to Indianapolis for a Game 6 Knicks-Pacers. That probably would have been Van Gundy's teams late 90s, the year the Pacers beat the Knicks and then lost to, I think that was the year maybe they went to the final, lost to Kobe and Shaq. I'd have to look at the exact year. But we didn't go because we got to LaGuardia and the plane was canceled. And we had to get to the Indiana for Game 6 and do a show. We had to change in D.C., LaGuardia, Washington, Indianapolis, and Mike did not want to do that. I was dying to go see Game 6. Plus, I live 50 miles away from LaGuardia. So if we didn't, it was like a morning flight, 7 a.m. So if we didn't get in this next flight, I got to sit around all day waiting to do a radio show. Mike was home in Manhattan, 10 minutes from the city. So as a result of that, I really got bent out of shape, and we had a huge fight over that really did not get settled until Mike got married. When Mike got married in 2000 or 2001, reluctantly, and thanks to his lovely wife, he invited me to his wedding, and that cleared the air. And that was a Saturday in summertime in 2000, maybe in 01, but it was right around there. And thank God that happened because we didn't talk forever because we did not figure out a way to get to Indianapolis to do a radio show, and I got all bent out of shape. And Mike took offense, and that was a nasty, when I say nasty, that was a nasty, combative scenario that lasted a long time. That was tricky.
Men will literally blow up a radio empire instead of going to therapy.
Think about that for a minute. We were going to break up that show based on the idea that we couldn't figure out a way, and I couldn't go to Indianapolis on my own, and then Mike do the show in New York. It looks bad. So we had to both go together. But think about it. We were on 10, 11 years at that point, great ratings on a great station, and we almost said to hell with it based on a flight to Indianapolis. We're both at fault there. And that's the sort of thing that I would never let happen again. Is I want to go to Indianapolis? What the hell? We don't go to Indianapolis. We do the show from home. I didn't say that then. And that is one of the reasons why Mike and I had a lot of ups and downs. And then I left Mike in a bad way because when I left in 2008, that summer, I did not handle the departure right. I don't know how you handle the departure. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Tell him 6 months earlier, Mike, Mel Karmazin gave me this great offer. I'm going to leave, but let's do a show together for the next 5 months until this contract's out. That's a very tricky scenario, but I didn't handle that great either. So that caused some trouble there at the time, summer of 08. But Mike and I are fine. Mike and I right now love each other. We're almost the absence, the heart grows fonder. Is that what it is? We know what we meant for each other. That's the most important thing.
Want to congratulate him yet again, but on the way out the door, because he can do this very quickly, I'm going to go to top 5 Doggy phrases that he loves to use in honor of the For Crying Out Loud he's hit us with here. We're going to go bottom first. We're going to start with number 5. Top 5 Doggy phrases, top 5 Hall of Fame phrases for the Hall of Famer. Number 5.
For me would be big spot.
Yeah. Where I learned it from, dog. Big spot.
I always say big spot. That would be, you got to put that in there as one of my favorite, my phrases.
Number 4 for Doggy, and I'm going to filibuster for you here as you gather yourself because this is hard to do on the fly. But
I feel like I know these. I got to be honest. I've listened to them so many times that I feel like I know some of them.
Okay, well, maybe why don't you come up with your own list that's different from his list?
I mean, Big Spot was on there, so far so good.
Number 4.
That is a myth. I used to say that all the time. That is a myth. So that would have to be there in the top 5. Would you agree with that, Stugotz?
I would agree. It was not in my top 5, but I've heard you say it very often. So, yes.
Number 3.
Let's think. Can't be saying that. You can't be saying
that. A million times I've heard you say that, dog.
Criticizing an athlete or a coach or somebody, you can't be saying that. Number 2.
This is a good one. Say something funny, Mikey. I used to say that all the time.
And finally, the number one phrase for the Hall of Famer is?
Can't be doing that. No, you know what a number one phrase is? Let me add an addendum. That is a freaking joke. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one, Doggy. That's a good one. Very Tricky was in my top 5. Gee Whiz was in my top 5. Crying Out Loud. And how about that? Doggy, I got the how about that from you.
That's a good point. The old Mel Allen, how about that? Good point. That's a good one. You gave me 8 ones there. Yeah, I could come up with a lot of these wacky ones. And let's not forget the mispronunciations, Danny, because I am the king of not being able to pronounce certain things properly, which is, I guess you could say, adds to the charm. But at times it's put me in a couple of tough spots, too. I can't pronounce the word Smith, for crying out loud. So keep that in mind as well.
Wow. So, guys, that's where you got that from, huh?
In your honor, Doggy, here is one of your mispronunciations.
Leonardo DiCaprio at a football game. You got to be kidding me. Leonardo DiCaprio. Really? Good actor. Not bad. Another guy. He wouldn't know Norm Van Brocklin. Oh, my God. What a disgrace. We take a timeout. We continue. Whether after the hour, we're on Mad Dog Unleashed.
What a disgrace.
What a disgrace is the top 5, Doggy.
Yes.
That is funny. I mean, that was last year at the Rams in either the championship game or the Super Bowl. I was all over them. Yeah, my mispronunciations are, they're kind of legendary. It was a lot worse 30, 40 years ago. I've improved a little bit to try to avoid some of those tricky words or names that gets me in all sorts of trouble. So a lot of times, like Kyrgios in tennis, that's always a tricky one. So I had trouble with that for a long time. So I used to call him the big Australian. Things like that. Just to cover myself so I didn't make any mistakes.
You are him, Stugotz.
I know.
It is so great. I can't believe that how about that is a washed phrase that you stole from him and he stole from Mel Allen.
And someone will steal it from me, Dan.
Thank you, Doggy. Congratulations, sir. We are happy for you.
Stugotz, good to have you guys with us. Thanks for the help here today.
All right, Doggy. Congrats, man. Stugotz here. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love a good gummy. Whether I'm on the golf course or winding down after a long day of carrying the show on my back, all I need is one good gummy to help me totally relax. And now, thanks to my good friends at CBDMD, getting Delta 9 THC gummies shipped directly to your door is not only possible, it's easy and affordable. How about that? Every CBDMD Delta 9 gummy is packed with 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, and let me tell you, buddy, they work. CBDMD also has Delta 9 microdose capsules that feature 1 milligram of THC, so it's easy to enjoy them whenever, wherever. And listen, I know it's easy to get confused with all the different Deltas out there, but Delta 9 THC is the same good old-fashioned THC we've all known and loved for years. To learn more about Delta 9 and everything else CBDMD has to offer, just head to cbdmd.com/Dan. Once again, that's cbdmd.com/Dan for information, education, and the best damn gummies you've ever had. Must be 21 years or older to purchase Delta 9.
When you shop at Walmart, you get it. Spend a little less on dorm must-haves.
8 a.m. class, 8 ounces of caffeine.
A room that finally feels just like home.
And create a space that's a little more you. With bedding from $5 and appliances from $9. Save money, live better. Walmart.
Dan Le Batard.
And finally, Fruit Loops are all the same flavor, just different colors. I refuse to believe that.
Is that right?
I refuse to believe it. I mean, try the grapefruit loop and tell me that doesn't taste different than the cherry one, because it does. I love Fruit Loops.
Stugotz.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Did you know that all of Fruit Loops were the same flavor, just different colors?
Refuse to believe it.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
We're presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code Dan for a special offer when you sign up. That's code Dan, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
I have been waiting for somebody to do what I believe this man has done, although I don't know because I have not seen the new documentary, Forced Change, on Hurricane Katrina. It'll be available on iTunes, Apple TV, and Amazon on August 2nd. But I believe that a disaster was poorly covered by the media. One of the great epic natural disasters in our history. As I talk about climate change, and I get told again and again that a city has to be erased before people pay attention. I believe that what happened after Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans was so dirty and awful and happened to people that America doesn't care about enough, that I'm guessing that Rennik Scholt in his new documentary is telling this story in a way that's more personal, more intimate, more detailed, because he's been working on it for a decade and a half. So thank you for being with us, Rennik. Again, I will tell the audience on August 2nd, if you want more information about what we're talking about, iTunes, Apple TV, and Amazon. But I'm being presumptuous. So you tell me what drew you to this story and why it is that you decided to tell it, because I've been wanting for a long time for people to get granular on Hurricane Katrina and how awful it must be for any human being to have their life washed away from one day to the next and feel like America doesn't care that much.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I mean, I guess I would throw that right back to you. Is how do you feel like it was covered in the media?
Loud, explosive, and after a month, everyone wandered away to the next thing, and lives were left in disarray with flooding and inconveniences and tragedy that is easy to sensationalize, but hard to keep in the news stream 2 years later.
Sure. Well, now that we're, 17 years later, I think it's still an important story to tell. You know, I think if you look at the storms that are hitting the world these days, you know, I feel like Katrina was the first climate influenced natural disaster that hit the media and that wasn't sort of broadcast as climate change, because they talked about the levees breaking, which they did, you know. But if a storm that big hadn't hit New Orleans, they wouldn't need to have been prepared. So my feeling is that these stories, though they will continue in frequency, you know, when you look at people who are displaced, you usually look at places where they have political unrest or some sort of the government isn't working, or there's lack of finances. There's this kind of thing is going to happen more and more in the first world, and so I think it's an important lesson for all of us to see that we need to be prepared for whether it's storms or fires or otherwise that are going to be hitting communities, and we need to be prepared to deal with the situation, the ramifications. I mean, 100,000 people left New Orleans and never came back. You know, that just happened. You know, and New Orleans is a special place, so I hate to see that happen in New Orleans.
And the why on you doing this, the inspiration. Did you yourself move from New Orleans? Why have you been tracking this for 15 years?
Yeah, so I moved to New York from New Orleans in 2002. And so I was, you know, very connected to the city. And the reason I followed is just like you were saying, like a week after after Katrina, people stopped paying attention, but I still had friends who were stuck in the city and couldn't get out, you know. So I felt like I was very intimately connected to the news and the people that were there, and I felt compelled to figure out what was going on, and so I went down there the day the city opened up in October of 2005. I had driven from New York with a camera package and went to the city on the day they opened it up to the public and started going into people's homes, mostly people that I knew, and just started filming them going through their stuff for the first time. And that was the inspiration. And I knew immediately, I was like, this is like, it's very intimate. This is very personal. This is loss at a level that you couldn't really understand unless you were actually there with the mask and the goggles and the boots and, you know, walking through the muck.
Because you were hurt, because it was wrong, because you're a filmmaker by nature, because it was interesting, because it was good footage? Like, where on the pecking order do you decide to devote 15 years to this?
I think that some stories take longer to unfold. And I think, you know, Spike Lee put out a very good documentary 1 year after Katrina, you know, in 4 parts. And it was all about New Orleans, and it was beautiful, you know. Trouble the Water came out after that, was nominated for an Academy Award. Finding the right story that actually could find an audience was something that took time for me. And I felt like people were focusing on the rebuilding, but some of the best characters that I had left. And it took them a while to figure out if they were going to stay gone, you know? So I would say that after a certain amount of time, I knew that I needed to focus on the people who left, and that was the story that hadn't been told. So it was important to me to tell their story. And I had known them before, you know, their lives were changed forever because of the storm. So I felt like I owed them, you know,
I feel a bit bad about doing this to you because I'm pressing on the same question again and again. But when I ask you the whys of leaving, of choosing to tell this story, hard to tell, sprawling, and people have come before you and done it well. So you need to do it differently, and there's a standard to uphold. You're taking 15 years of care with something. When I ask you the whys of choosing the exits, the 4 stories that are exits from Katrina, is it because of the heartbreak in leaving a place that's so soulful, that is your home, and not wanting to leave it, having to leave it?
Yes. I think this would be a different story if it happened somewhere in Ohio. No offense to people from Ohio, but New Orleans is a special place. People that are there for many, many years, generations, to leave New Orleans is to leave something that, you know, there are very few places that have a specific local identity anymore because of globalization and media, to be honest. And so New Orleans is a place that when you get there, everything about it is very different, you know? And so the people that are from there, to leave is not just to go to another place, it's to leave everything that they know. It's to leave their home, their culture, everything.
Where do you rank New Orleans, American cities or the world cities you love?
I mean, it's one of the best cities in the world, I would think. You know, I mean, I also love Berlin and Shanghai, but, you know, New Orleans is a great city.
The reason I ask you the question is because I'm trying to get at the heartbreak of you seeing that happen to a city that you love that way.
It was terrible. I mean, you know, I feel like it's been so long and the city's changed so much since then. I feel like there's definitely some distance to that. But I mean, the city was broken. Like it was totally broken. You know, when large swaths, what was it, like 70% or more of the city was underwater. You know, I mean, it was terrible. It was terrible to see that.
What got washed away? People got washed away. I mean, you know, I remember there was this thing that was said right around like late 2005, early 2006 that like Katrina just washed away a lot of the bullshit. And I was like, bullshit. You know, like it was a terrible thing to say, like as if people who couldn't afford to leave the city and got stuck and then lost their homes were the bullshit that needed to get washed away. And that's basically what people were saying. So I think human beings who made up the city and made up the culture of the city got chased out and didn't have the means to return. What things were lost in the culture of New Orleans that were never to return beyond the people?
I mean, it's still there, but it's different now. It's like, I remember being down there quite a few years ago, long after Katrina, but I was still working on the film and I was in like a coffee shop. And I remember I was like eating, I don't even know what I was eating, but I was looking around and there was people sitting at the bar writing, you know, and I felt for a second like I was in Brooklyn. I was like, oh, wow, New Orleans has become Brooklyn, you know, because what's happened is the individual culture that was there, that never left Louisiana, had been artists move in, which is not a bad thing, but that begins a certain process of gentrification that I think sort of glamorized New Orleans in a way that maybe it lost something. It's still there, and I know people who are like born and bred, never going to leave. But it's gotten much more expensive. You know, it's gotten much more expensive for people who've been there for a long time. And I think I think when enough people, people bought all these homes for cheap and then turned them into Airbnbs. So now there's whole neighborhoods that are like just people walking around with suitcases because they don't actually, no one really lives there. They're just, people who are flying in and going to the quarter, so it's still there, but it's definitely lost a little bit of its like thing.
Broad question, obviously, given how much work you've put into this. What did you learn?
I learned how to make a film, which is slightly embarrassing to say, but I think some people go to grad school and other people make a film, So I learned how to make a film. I learned how to make a story. I learned how to take material and switch it around and then switch it around again. I learned the time that it takes to sort of develop stories. I learned about how you have to develop relationships to be able to then stick a camera in someone's face and develop a story, So I really learned what it took to let something take its own course, while at the same time, learning how to build that thing so that you can give it to the world.
That's detached and professional. I was asking you more what you learned about race, culture, people. You know what I mean? I understand what you're saying. You learned how to make a film and tell a story in a way that you're proud of. I was asking more, what did you learn about America? What did you learn about race relations? What did you learn about loss? What did you learn about home?
Yeah, so let me think. There's so much.
Forgive me because it is a broad question. You're pouring your life into making art. You're telling the stories of people that hurt, and you want to apply the appropriate touch and care to those stories. So I did not mean to dismiss your answer. You learn how to tell their story responsibly, respectfully, in a way that you hope will reach people. About what does it tell us about America? What does it tell us? What does this storm tell us about our systems?
I mean, we're not ready. We're not ready for another one. I learned that if you need stability because you have children, you can't just rebuild. Like it doesn't, like you almost everybody who left had kids. Like they had kids and they were like, I have to prioritize my family, And so it taught me that so for some people, their place where they live can change, but their home doesn't change. That was something that Marcus, one of the characters in the film, had said. He said that, I'm gone now, but I'm going to go back there one day and die. I'm going to die where my soul is. My soul will always be in New Orleans. And that was something that I felt was very, very powerful.
One of the pop culture moments that echoed from that tragedy was Kanye West going on a telethon with Mike Myers, desperately pleading for people to care about black people. I remember seeing the awkwardness of this. I remember laughing a good deal at how clunky this was as awkward television, even as people were suffering in New Orleans. Let's play that sound for Rennik and the audience.
I hate the way they portray us in the media. If you see a black family, it says they're looting. See a white family, it says they're looking for food. And it's been 5 days because most of the people are black.
And subtle, but in even many ways more profoundly devastating, is the lasting damage to the survivors' will to rebuild and remain in the area. The destruction of the spirit of the people of southern Louisiana and Mississippi may end up being the most tragic loss of all.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
So you have Mike Myers clearly reading and Kanye West emotional and speaking on behalf of a people that felt neglected. Your response is what when you hear that?
It's Kanye used to be so cool, I would say this. Yes, of course. If this happened in a city that had that wasn't considered a chocolate city, or that was like a whiter city, or that was a richer city, you know, would it have gotten more attention, and attention would have been on it longer? Yeah, probably. You know, a lot of the people that left, they couldn't leave. They didn't have a car. They were in the projects, you know, like they couldn't go anywhere. And those are the ones that got the attention. And yeah, a lot of people focused on the looting, but people didn't have anything. I mean, people were stuck in their house. It's hot down there. Like, there's no air conditioning. Like, everything rotted. Like, it was disgusting. It was terrible. So, you know, do I agree that America has potentially a race problem, and that they focus more and care more about people who are, you know, not Black? Yeah, I do think it's a problem, you know, but I also feel like New Orleans is a place where like everyone's like, let's work together, you know? And so I also feel like that was a little bit of Kanye looking down from his perch a little bit, you know, just because he was definitely saying, you know, I mean, it's a great line. George Bush doesn't care about Black people. I mean, it was funny, you know, like you were saying, it was funny before, but you know, the people that were there, like, a lot of times the people that got stuck there really did have nothing, you know? And so, you know, should it have changed? Would it have changed if it was, you know, somewhere in Florida? Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Oh, I think a lot of things would have been different. I think it would have gotten climate change attention if it merely wasn't something that was below sea level. So people think, just bad luck, as opposed to, no, this is going to be a storm that is going to envelop other cities that don't necessarily, quote unquote, deserve whatever happens because they're below sea level.
Yeah.
I think
you guys are in Miami, right?
Please don't do that. Yes, please. Yes, we are in Miami. Yes, it's a constant fear down here.
Of course it is.
If the storms are getting stronger and one of those hits here, we don't have the capacity to endure it either.
Right. You don't.
It's just terrifying because people think it's New Orleans. It's below sea level. But no, it was the strength of that storm. There is no city that's prepared for that. It doesn't exist.
No, from Texas to Florida, you know, across the whole Gulf.
So. What do you think was most interesting? And this is also a hard question. Or what do you think are the more interesting parts of your documentary? Why is it worth watching for the people listening to this?
I think you see how, for the most part, you know, I did not focus on the people that I knew were blue collar people who worked in the city. And so they had the means to at least apply for some money and get a grant or whatever. They were able to sort of like get back on their feet to a certain extent. You know, they weren't in the projects. But even though they landed, they had hope that this would be a change for good. All of them experienced trauma in a way that affected their lives greatly. So I think understanding that this kind of thing isn't just like, if you're going to be okay and you can survive, you'll be fine, that it's something that really affects you deeply. And people had drug addictions, and there was suicide. There was a lot of things that happened to people that just nobody expected, but over time, like the trauma clock was ticking. So I think if you give it the time and you watch it through, you see that, like, when you're forced to change like that and you have the will ripped out of your hands, the repercussions of that will be seen years down the road.
When you say it was disgusting, what was disgusting? What are the details, the smells, the sights that you remember that jarred you as a filmmaker?
Dead animals everywhere. You couldn't walk into a home without wearing goggles, because your eyes would start to, you couldn't see. Like the mold was so strong that you couldn't breathe. It was, it was long before COVID, and I was wearing N95 masks, it was, you're walking in muck 6 inches deep, and you just can't breathe. I mean, you literally couldn't breathe. Like, you needed to step out of the home because it was so strong, because it was warm. New Orleans, this hit in August, it was very hot, and everyone's refrigerators had totally rotted and were full of maggots. I mean, it was just like, I didn't see any dead bodies. They cleaned up the dead bodies before I got there, but I feel like everything else that was rotting and disgusting about a city that had been underwater and then, receded. It was really intense. And what was crazy about the city is that I would spend the day driving around, going in to people's homes and filming. And then I stayed at a friend's of mine who lived near the Mississippi, uptown. And she had cable, air conditioning, electricity, like they lost electricity for like a week, and that was it. And so every night would be crazy because there would be like the news and there would be like but you're in the same city, but it was like during the day I had gone into a war zone and then had come out, and it was really intense.
Force Change. It's about Hurricane Katrina. It will be available August 2nd, iTunes, Apple TV, Amazon. Thank you, Rennik, for telling the story. I'm looking forward to watching it because I've been waiting for someone to tell this part of the story. So I thank you for doing so.
Thank you for having me.